Good morning, class 12th. Children, as I told you earlier in my previous video, that I will be starting with a new unit today, and I am avoiding genetics to be started as yet because it needs much of board work, and I don't find it, comfortable to start it right now because already you are in so much of mess. So let us start with a simple unit, and the name of your unit, this is unit 3 for you. It is biology and human welfare, but it is divided into 3 chapters again. So your first chapter in biology and human welfare is human health and diseases, right children? I'm sorry I forgot to mention the name at the top, but the chapter's name is human health and diseases. As you can see that much of theoretical today again, so we will be taking all these points one by one. First of all, the definitions. So both of these definitions are important. So if you can see, first is health, and this definition is given by WHO and World Health Organization, and it refers to the state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Now what does it mean? That if you are healthy, you should be physically healthy. That means there should not be any disease. All your body organs, your functions are performed efficiently. You are mentally efficient. You are not having any kind of mental issues, and you are also socially acceptable. That means you are not indulged in any kind of socially any activity which is not accepted by the society, right children? If in all three aspects you are well, and you are also not having the disease. Not merely absence of disease means if a person doesn't have any disease and he is not mentally okay and socially not okay, you will not call the person healthy, right children? So here absence of disease is one criteria, but along with it you should be physically, mentally and socially well, right? Then you come to the topic, the definition of disease. Now, when we are diseased, when we call that we are suffering from a disease, when any of our body organ is not performing the efficient function as per the potential, right? Because the organ is facing some kind of problem. There is some reason behind not performing a proper functional not performing any function properly. So, and this is due to some problem. So, this is known as disease, right? Malfunctioning of the body organs due to one or more reasons, right children? Much of diseases are there here in the beginning of this chapter, but must understand that you have to give this importance because approximately 3 to 4 marks question are out of this particular portion, right children? This unit is there for 14 marks. I hope you people already know the weightage of the chapters of the units. So the whole unit is 14 marks, and out of this whatever I'm teaching you today, this is approximately for 3 to 4 marks, any of the question. You cannot afford to leave any question here, right children? Then you come to the third heading. When you have just known the definition of disease, then types of diseases. This is something very, very general, and you have studied it at the level, I guess from class 6 onwards, you people start learning about the types of diseases. But again, I am telling you because this is, I have to take a recap formally. So, first type is infectious. You also call it communicable. Nowadays you people must be understanding this very well because of corona, that is COVID-19. So you must be understanding why we are staying at home, why we are wearing mask, why we are sanitizing our say property, and why we are washing hands every time. Why? Because this is infectious disease. That means it is carried by something, right? So if a disease is spreadable, that means it is communicated from one person to another. That is infectious disease. You also call it communicable disease. And the second type would be non-infectious disease. That means any disease which is a degenerative disorder. Mind it, Degenerative disorder means internally any of your body organ is not performing the function fine, it is facing some problem, but it is not a condition where merely by touching or by sneezing, coughing, you are transferring the disease to the other person. Right, children? Suppose it's just that, for example, when you talk about infectious disease, now viral disease, coronavirus is again, the fever due to coronavirus is one thing. You can say common cold is there. You can say chicken pox is there. Merely by touching it spreads, and then the fungal infections merely by touching the spread. So these are communicable disease. They are infectious, they spread very easily, right? But when you talk about non-infectious, that means suppose any person is having a problem of cardiac issues, heart issues, and you may say the liver issues, for instance, or suppose a kidney infection is there, right? Or some kind of infection, tumor or cancer inside the body. So these are the problems which are faced by the person, and they are never transmitted from one person to another. They are not transmitted by merely touching or contacting, or by air, or by say water, contaminated water. It's not the case. So the problem is there, but it is a degenerative disorder, never spreads. That is a non-infectious disease. Right, children? But if you can see, now I have made the different color combinations so that you can understand when you have differentiated between infectious and non-infectious disease along with the example, right? Mind it, I have told it in the form of points. You may convert it into the differentiate. So along with the example, you have to learn the difference. And then mode of transmission. So if something is transmitting, that means it is infectious. If things are say communicated from one person to another, right, from one place to another, so that means it is infectious. And in how many different ways the things can be transmitted. So the first heading here is direct transmission, and the second one is indirect transmission, right? Direct transmission means you come in contact. You come in contact means first one is direct contact. For example, if suppose someone is suffering from ringworm, that is a fungal infection, or someone is suffering from chicken pox, right? So this is very, very infectious, and we always refrain ourselves from touching, from coming in contact with such people, right? It's not unethical, it's just that for precautionary measures, you people isolate yourself from such infected persons, right? So if by coming in direct contact or by touching each other, if the infection is spreading, or it may be it's direct contact, skin to skin, so you may include sexual contact also. That is also a direct contact. So if any disease is transmitted from one person to another by maintaining a sexual contact, that will also come in this particular heading, right? Second one is droplet infection. So the moment you say droplet infection, sneezing and coughing, in any case the mucus of your nose or the sputum from your the nasal swab or the throat swab, that is the mucosal secretion. Nowadays these words are very common. Every time you see that when you are say checking the corona patient, you are taking the sample of nasal swab or the throat swab. It's just that because these are the infected areas, and these are having abundance of coronavirus in case the person is affected, right? So droplet infection is if by, that's why you are wearing masks, right? Droplet infection spreads by coughing and sneezing, or sometimes when you speak also your saliva goes out. So things are, you just try to avoid any such droplet coming out, coming in contact with any such droplet, right? Third one is open wounds. The best example here is tetanus. Whenever we fall down while playing, or we fell down from a bicycle, or any accident is there, always we have the Tidback injection, anti-tetanus injection. Why? Because if any kind of bleeding is there and it comes in contact with the rough surface of soil or the iron content, the transfer of tetanus, Clostridium tetani is the causative agent, and open wounds because blood is exposed, so things can go straight away into your blood circulatory system, right? Next one here is fomite bone. If you can see, fomite bone is fomite are the belongings, your comb, your clothes, your towel, or your hankies, your socks, your utensils, anything that belongs to you. I mean, sometimes all these, in case of TB, if you see, that is tuberculosis, in that case, the person is isolated and even the fomites are kept totally isolated. Why? Because we believe sometimes while coughing, suppose the sputum or the droplet of sputum is the mucus in the throat, right? Suppose it settles on on any of your belongings, so we should not be coming in contact with that. And any kind of belongings, any kind of infection that is spreading through the belongings of a person, that is fomite borne. Then you go with the soil, air and water contamination. So if you sometimes we see that very small children, they crawl on the floor. The floor has to be hygienic because they tend to keep everything in the mouth they find on the surface. So soil or floor borne, I mean anything on the ground surface that can have the pathogens or the contaminated air and water. I mean, when you talk about diarrhea, amoebiasis, or the dysentery condition, cholera, these all are through contaminated food and water. So these are also the mode of transmission. And the last one here is placenta. Placenta, why we are including it, though it is the barrier for many diseases to be transferred from mother to fetus, but we already know that few pathogens are there which cannot be filtered by placenta. For example, HIV. And sometimes hepatitis, these viruses, these cannot be filtered by placenta. So placenta again becomes the mode of transmission for pathogens from one person to another. Right, children? These are the direct transmissions. I mean, you are straight away coming in contact with each other, you are touching each other, you are coughing or sneezing on someone's mouth, you are your blood circulatory system is exposed to the external atmosphere just because of some injury, or your belongings are coming in contact with the other person, or you are consuming contaminated air or water, or you are coming in contact with contaminated soil, or the placenta is something which is already present inside the body. So these are direct transmission modes, right, children? But when you talk about indirect transmission, that means you have never been to the site of infection where the germs are breeding, but there is someone who is carrying things to you. So let me show you, if you can see. Now this is indirect transmission through vectors. That means these pathogens are coming to you and they enter your body through various vectors. Vectors are the carriers which bring the pathogens or the germs from the site of breeding to your body. Right, children? This is indirect transmission because you intentionally did not go to the site of breeding of pathogens. It's just that something mediated in between, something acted as a carrier, and unintentionally you were not into it. I mean, you did not do anything to get suffered from that particular disease, but these are the vectors which transfer the disease into your body through the pathogens. Right, children? For example, mosquitoes, houseflies, cockroaches, we already know these are general things, that if mosquito bites, generally we have malaria, filariasis, and various diseases are there. Now dengue fever is also there. Right, chikungunya is also there. These are mosquito bites. These are through mosquito bites. And you talk about house flies. Now they contaminate the food. If you eat that stale food, in that case you are going to suffer. And cockroaches also, because you know that in kitchen or in the houses, these cockroaches, they keep on moving from one place to another. So these are also the modes of transmission, but not the direct ones, rather indirect ones. Right, children? The last thing here that I have written, last thing for this video, right? This is acute and chronic diseases. Now, what do you mean by acute and chronic diseases? Acute disease is one which is short lived. I mean, all of a sudden it happened to you. Short lived, but the symptoms are very, very vigorous, and sometimes they may be fatal if you don't go for a treatment. Right? For instance, if I say, suppose all of a sudden you suffer from pneumonia, you suffer from malaria, so you have to go for treatment, and the symptoms are, I mean, they are vigorous. We always understand that yes, the person is suffering from some kind of disease, right? The chronic is the one where you are having, I mean, these diseases are old diseases. A person has the history, Sometimes we say if a person is suffering from asthma for say last 20 years, so the thing has become chronic. Generally the person remains same, generally he remains well, but in between the shots of asthmatic attack it comes, it is short lived and it goes away, right? So the problem doesn't persist longer, but it has a history. Chronic diseases are those diseases which have a history. They are long lived, that means they are persisting in someone's body for a longer time, and ultimately the symptoms are not literally fatal, because the moment you start having symptoms you already know that yes, I'm suffering from a particular thing, like diabetic hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia condition, or you may say blood pressure or arthritis. All of a sudden you have inflammation in joints and the knees and elbows are, they are swollen, right? But sometimes the pain just go away. So these are the chronic issues, old issues having a history, right children? So this was just an introductory. Let me tell you, the chapter has much more inside. Please do not take it very lightly. It's just that to lessen up the shock. These are the easy issues that are discussed in introduction of the chapter, right children? So I'm concluding this video here. I'll be proceeding with the next topic in the next video, right? Thank you.